This one is a juicy one. It comes from a listener who would like to remain anonymous, so I'm just going to call her Haley, okay? Haley says, "Hey Mandy, I love the podcast and I've been loving the Q&A episodes lately. I have a question I hope you can answer. I am resigning from my position at a financial services firm due to some really negative circumstances. I was sexually harassed and HR essentially did nothing about it. There was never a formal onboarding process, so I've been in the dark about many fundamental elements of the role, and there's absolutely no trust within the team I'm on. Everyone on the team, including our director, have gossiped to me about other members behind their backs. I've heard that I shouldn't include complaints or grievances in the letter of resignation. But if anyone asks why I'm leaving, I've got pages worth of negative experiences I could share. How would you approach this situation, and would you include any of that in a letter or exit interview? Sincerely, a millennial who seems to think she can change the old white men in the finance industry." With 2 crying face emojis. Oh man, another woman who I just want to say, keep going, my girl. Like, keep going. We need more of you out there. First of all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had this awful experience at a financial firm, no less, because we all know financial services industries pay a lot of lip service these days to wanting more women, especially women of color, joining, the industry because they are struggling. They are finding that, oh, there's a lot of money to be had from having diverse clientele, and yet we can't give them diverse financial representatives. So let's go start a big marketing effort to get more women and people of color to want to work here. And clearly, what they're doing is they're only thinking about how to get us through the door, but not how to actually make us succeed once we get there. The fact that you weren't even given any sort of orientation process and you're not really understanding your role, that screams, it's giving toxic work environment. It's giving, we want you on the brochure, but we don't really care about your longevity in this space or in your career. I'm really glad that you're getting on up out of there. I hope your next job is nothing like this one. I hope that they give you everything that you need to succeed. And I hope that you continue being open to leaving whenever you're not being valued where you work. Okay. So a couple of things here. The sexual harassment, unacceptable. The fact that HR did nothing about it, that tells me a lot about this company and why you are leaving. Now, what to do when you feel like you've got a list of grievances a mile long, and especially when it's so fresh and you're about to resign, it feels like you want to let them know why you're leaving. And I honestly support that. I think at this point, on your way out, how much do you have to lose by telling them exactly about your experience? And I think you have to kind of carefully weigh your options here. If you play it out in your mind, who would you be sharing this list of grievances to, and what would be the pros and cons here? Now, in your industry, and maybe even in your city, your state, it depends on who's at this company and if you think they could make things more difficult for you in your career later on, because first and foremost, you have to protect yourself. And I'm going to be a little bit of a cynic here and say that if the issues were so deep with this company that a sexual harassment claim was not really dealt with in an appropriate manner, and someone like you is resigning, for that and other reasons, that you telling them their issues is maybe not going to change things there for the better for the next person behind you. Like, would it be worth potentially putting your career at risk if there are people working there now who could make things more difficult for you down the road? Now, that's a question only you can answer. If you kind of weigh out the pros and cons and you say, I actually don't have much to lose career-wise, professionally, and maybe people work here, they'll go on, but I feel like my brand is strong enough. I've got a great network. Clearly, you're great at your work because you were able to get a job when you wanted to. But if you feel like pretty confident that no one at this company will cause issues for me down the line, and on top of that, you're willing to stick your neck out there to make things potentially better for the next woman who's hired behind you, that's a valiant effort. That's a valiant, step to take. In my opinion, it's brave. It takes courage to put yourself out there in that way. Now, how to do it? I mean, you want to protect yourself. So I would say, putting it in an email is one thing. If you have a conversation on the phone, absolutely record it. I'm all about kind of having my voice memo on for certain phone conversations so that I have a record of it. But an email is perfectly fine. If you don't have a formal exit interview process, what you could do is, write a letter and make sure that it's going to the people who have the actual power to change things. So I wouldn't send an all like company wide email to the whole company listserv and just be like, you know what, screw you guys, I'm out. So let me let everyone know. I might start with head of HR, your department head, whoever their bosses are, and just very, objectively. And I think I mentioned on a question from last week's episode about how important it is to come with some evidence, sit down and make a list of here's what happened, here's the date, here are the key players, and here's how these things made an actively contributed to me wanting to leave. And if you approach it that way, I feel like that's the approach that I would personally take. If from that email, people want to have follow-up phone calls and they want to talk to you and, oh my goodness, we didn't know. At that point, it's too late. It's their problem. And I wouldn't take any of that burden on your shoulders to stick around any longer than you absolutely have to and help them get to the bottom of what happened. Like, it's too late for all that. You're just trying to let them know so that things can maybe get a little bit incrementally better for the next person who comes behind you. And I think that honestly, you're doing them a service. You're helping them, you're giving them an opportunity to clean up a little bit and to get better. And if they take the opportunity or they don't, that's not on your shoulders. You can say what you got to say and then keep it moving. All right. I'm so excited for you about your new opportunity. Thank you for being brave enough to even consider the idea of telling them what happened to you. There is power in our stories. I hope that they hear your story and they take action, but at least you can take heart in knowing that, hey, I went out of my way to tell them what happened, and then kind of take that pressure off yourself and take that burden off your own shoulders to actually create the change that obviously needs to be happening there so that things are not so bad for the next person who comes along. One thing that you didn't mention is whether or not they already have a formal exit interview process. And if there is going to be a formal exit interview, I would absolutely, come prepared with that list and ask them, I actually do have some points I'd like to make. Would you prefer I cover that in a phone call, or would you like me to just forward you on this email and it can do the talking for me? That's more than fine, honestly. Whatever's gonna get your point across with the least amount of work on your side, that's what I would do. So you can save it for the exit interview. Like I said, if you want to take things a step further, you could make sure that a copy of those grievances are emailed not just to the person conducting your exit interview, but the people who are responsible for whatever grievances, you're calling out, their managers. Like, you can decide how you want to escalate it. It all comes back to, what's the risk versus reward here? Are you doing things, in a way that is going to hopefully make things better for your other colleagues you're leaving behind? And that can tell you, like, on a scale of 1 to really bad petty, how petty you want to be. I would go for covering it in an exit interview, following up with an email, and just tagging, copying the people who really have the power to rectify the situation, copying on that, and then let it go. At that point, you've done what you need to do. Go to your new opportunity, go to your new job, start this new chapter in your life. Always remember what happened to you here so that it makes you a better leader in the future, and talk about it and, find people who can support you in the future. And that's really all you're responsible for at the end of the day. All right, Miss Haley, aka a millennial who seems to think she can change the old white men in the finance industry. Yes, I hope you're not alone there, because the financial industry needs so much help. Okay, that is it for BA Q&A for this week. I'm Mandi Woodruff Santos. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Don't forget to subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend about Brown Ambition. Tag us on all of your amazing social media posts. I love to see them. I comment, I share, I retweet, I reshare, all that good stuff. Thank you so much again, BA fam, and I will see you next week.